The next segment is the game changer / work changer. In this case, the company has literally changed how we work. The spirit of this honor is, quote, you changed how things are done or viewed, and there's no going back. Please welcome to the stage Ram Jambunathan of SAP.
Thank you, Rich, and hello, everyone. It's an honor to present this award on behalf of SAP. We are proud to be a decade-long sponsor of the Churchill Club. Not all products and services are created equal. Like, some are nice to haves, let's face it, and some have changed the world in such significant ways that we can't even remember what life was like before it. The winner of this year's Game Changer, Work Changer Award is one of these. It was called out by the Academy for, quote, fundamentally changing how teams communicate and how work gets done. When this company first went to market, there were no other products like theirs. And since then, we moved from a world of email and fragmented chat discussions to one of a continuous flow of information. This honoree's products are to previous collaboration tools, quite frankly, to what the iPod was to MP3 players. If you build a product right, you can change the world. This company, I'm sure you'll agree, so deserving of the 2019 Game Changer Churchill Award in the category of work is Slack. Please welcome Alan Shim, CFO, or Chief Financial Officer of Slack, together with his conversation partner, Ilya Fushman of Kleiner Perkins. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh. Just take the bowl off. All right, thank you.
Take the middle seat.
All right, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Exciting to be here with Alan. How many of you have used Slack today? All right, there you go. Awesome, we got some users. So Slack has clearly become a global phenomenon. It's been transformative to effectively all of our lives. Today, Slack has over 10 million daily active users, over 100,000 paying customers, 65 of the Fortune 100, used in more than 150 countries, 1,800 employees across 12 offices, and went public in June of this year. Slack actually holds a very special place in my heart. I first met you in 2015 when you were interviewing me for a job at Slack when I was leaving my previous job at Dropbox. Instead, I opted to go back to venture capital, but had the privilege of investing in Slack and being on the board and seeing the magic from the inside, and it was truly magic. I think beyond the impressive stats, Slack has been an innovator and game changer on the obviously product and how we work, but also on how companies are built with a strong focus on culture. And on how they capitalize and go public, and actually on fashion as well. These are Slack socks. Unfortunately, do not have mine. But what many of you probably don't know or maybe have heard is Slack is sort of a very long-term overnight success. The company started in 2009 as a gaming company called TinySpec, raised I think its first round of funding in 2010. And in August of 2013, decided to pivot to the collaboration product, which I think officially launched in February of 2014. And you joined in March of 14. So what were you thinking?
I don't know. Well, I mean, first of all, thank you to the Churchill Club, to all of you. Such an honor to be here. Really delighted and privileged to share our story with you. I also want to thank Peloton and some of our other customers, SAP, because a lot of the companies that you've recognized here are actually building their businesses on Slack, whether it's LinkedIn, Airbnb, as I mentioned, Peloton and SAP as well. So yeah, thank you. So we're very proud of what we're building in terms of how we think we can change what work looks like in the kind of the modern era. But to my story, as Ilya mentioned, there's a lot of consumer DNA that went into how this enterprise company was built. And I think what attracted me to this opportunity, so when I joined in March of 2014, it was a 20-person company. We're now approaching 2,000 people. And a lot of things have changed since then. But what hasn't changed is this focus on the customer, focus on building a delightful experience, and that if you build something that users will really appreciate and enjoy, especially in the enterprise, it's going to really surprise them, because I think it's very hard to find those delightful experiences today. But I think we also hit on something where the world has changed so fundamentally in terms of the pace of work, distributed workforces, the number of applications you use in your day-to-day life, and the fact that the tools to support that work really haven't changed. And we've really been in a very email-centric world for the last 2-3 decades. And so we think modern work deserves modern tools. And so we've had some success in a limited amount of time, but I'm really excited about what the future holds for us.
Cool. So Slack, not email, not just chat. Like, what is Slack?
Yeah, so for the unlucky few who haven't used Slack yet in the group, what I like to say what Slack is in a sentence is Slack replaces email inside your organization. But since we have more than a couple minutes here, I'm going to go through a little bit more detailed explanation of what Slack does. So I've been referencing email a lot because that really is the status quo in terms of how work, collaboration, communication is happening today. So if you know the framework of kind of the jobs of a product, Slack replaces sort of the 3 jobs of email today. First, it replaces communication inside your organization, right? How you communicate with your colleagues. Second, it replaces the way applications communicate with you as end users. So to think about the notifications that you get daily from your Concur app, your Workday app, ServiceNow app, whatever it may be. And then last, it replaces communication outside or between organizations. And I think that's important because we're leveraging a new way to, again, do modern work at a modern pace and provide this agility that organizations are looking for, and aligning organizations today in a world where speed is everything, alignment is everything. So we're leveraging for that first job, we're leveraging a capability called channels. This idea that you can have more transparent contextual communication in a fluid way on all of your devices. On the second job around applications, most organizations are using hundreds of applications in their organization today, spending tens, hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars on software alone. And Slack is able to bring those together and connect them into a more integrated experience. And then lastly, by providing the security, flexibility, agility of channels across Slack customers, we think there's a real opportunity to really transform work in a more profound way.
You have, and your mission is to make working life simpler, more pleasant, and more productive. I think most companies, at least in this space historically, would have started at more productive and stopped at simpler. But you have the pleasant part. And I love the little animation and the little notification you get when you boot up Slack. Talk a little bit about that and just the culture in the company and how this sort of playfulness and focus on delight permeates what you guys do.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between liking a product and loving a product, right? And I think you heard that from Peloton. And it creates and it evokes a different experience and just a different way that you experience it as a user, but it also allows you to do different things as a company. Because then if that's the bar, love, then you can invest behind that, and that will actually help facilitate more growth, especially in a kind of everyone is sharing everything, we're recommending everything. There's a kind of viral nature that exists and an opportunity that exists when you set the bar that high. And it also just keeps us very focused, because the only way that we think we measure our success is the amount of value we deliver for customers. So that's always been built into the company ethos. And something like a Slack really enables that, because we have channels where information, it just allows information to be shared more transparently, When people have questions about decisions that are made at the business level or at the product level, there's a much richer exchange of information and knowledge sharing between the junior product manager and our CEO. And I think that's really important. It's been important to have that flexibility and fluidity and agility as we've grown very quickly along the way.
Let's dive a little deeper into that. I mean, how do you think about your culture? How do you describe it? I remember being actually quite impressed how much focus there was on diversity and inclusion at Slack, even from the early days. What is the culture at Slack?
So probably the one word I would focus on is it's very human. We focus a lot on values like empathy, courtesy, solidarity, but also obviously we want to hire people who are smart, humble, hardworking. But the idea of empathy, I think, is particularly relevant because I remember the first time I sent a ticket to somebody at Slack, a support ticket to somebody at Slack, and I got a response within a few minutes. And it wasn't just the fact that they responded so quickly. It was, hey, dear Alan, sorry you had this experience. We think that's very. We kind of empathize with you, and we want to make that better. So here's a way to address the issue that you had. And I'm used to a world where I've gotten support help from my cable provider or my cell phone provider, and we will just not name them because it's probably safer that way.
They might be here.
Yeah, well, that's like I said. So, and that's always been something that we just said, that's just part of working with a company. But the idea that you can create a different experience, a different connection with your customer, I think has been really, really valuable for us. And not just obviously with our customers, but that's a core part of it, but also with fellow employees and making sure that that's just part of who we are, understanding, appreciating one another's humanity. And this, it's becoming more kind of in vogue these days, but I think it's always been part of who we are, making sure that people feel respected, valued in the organization.
You guys have always done things a little bit differently. You had an amazing animated movie for a marketing campaign. Beautiful.
Not one of my proudest moments, but yeah, sure.
We won't talk about the ultimate result of that marketing, but and you've combined a bottoms-up adoption, so this viral adoption of people with an amazing enterprise sales motion. You've obviously thought a little bit differently about going public. Kind of talk about some of these things and how do you guys manage being different, but also aligning to this hyper growth that you're on?
When we started, we thought that Slack was going to be awesome for teams of that look like us. So it's going to be the best product for companies of about 20 people. And what we found is that knowledge work is pretty universal, right? That this agility, this ability to be flexible and communicate and work with a team is not just for 20 people. It's actually for 20,000 people. Even our largest customers today tip over well over 100,000 people. And I mean, to me, it just shows that there has been this pent-up demand for how we need to evolve the way that we work and how the way that we collaborate with one another. I think as we've evolved that means we've got more of an enterprise, traditional enterprise sales motion, continue to sell to the largest companies in the world. You mentioned the Fortune 100. We recently signed customers that are 40, 50,000 users, and they are 100 times bigger than we are, right? And so that's just a level of it keeps us on our toes and it helps us keep thinking about the needs of organizations at that size and scale.
Got it. And so where does it go to from now? Like what's the future hold?
Well, we have over 10 million people using it daily, 100,000 customers. We think there are hundreds of millions of knowledge workers where this is relevant. I mean, I think for everyone here, Slack is going to be the type of product that you didn't know that you needed, but then once you really adopted it, and especially with your team, you've adopted it, it's something that you'll say you probably couldn't live without. I know I feel that way, but I think you feel like I'm pretty biased. So I'd rather point to the way our customers talk about it. And that's, I think, the sign of, that we've hit on something really valuable there. I think at this point, it's making that more valuable. So once people have truly adopted this new way of working, we can make that experience a lot richer. We're a 5.5-year-old business. and in the business and kind of in business terms, that's still really, really young. So I think I'm super excited about what the future holds over the next 5 years, particularly as we build out a more robust platform, application ecosystem, and really start to enable work across organizations, which I think is really exciting.
Now, you're one of the, I think, very few public company CFOs who's started the company and grew up with it. So talk a little bit about that journey and really just, the evolution of the team and how you've managed that. Because I think you guys really managed it very well in balancing the team that's there and bringing on the right kind of talent.
Well, we only have a few minutes, so I'll give you the short version. I think I feel especially lucky to have this opportunity to be with this great group of people, to work on to work on a product in a market like this. But probably, the reality of scaling a company, I mean, those principles, if you will, are equally relevant to the individuals who are working in that. So always thinking about where you're going versus where you are, and the skills that you need to be successful at 5, 10x scale, and preparing for that, building for that, has been probably the thing I would say about how we thought about growing Slack as much as I thought about growing myself. So managing a team of hundreds was something that I knew I had to start getting ready for. So what does that mean? That means I have to evolve from being a manager of, individual manager, but I have to be thinking about setting the vision, setting the mission for a much larger group of people. Actually sharing that vision with an audience like this. How can I develop in the way that narrative is a lot tighter and a lot crisper? So we're talking about this for me, but it's equally relevant for how we talk about it for the company, making sure that the millions and millions of people that we believe are potential customers of Slack, how can we make that narrative a lot clearer so that this new thing that we're trying to bring into the world can be a lot more easily understood and appreciated.
Awesome. 2 last questions for you. One, what's your favorite emoji?
We have an emoji. We talk about this year being the year of execution for the organization. Every year is the year of execution, but this one in particular. We just went through a public offering, which we mentioned, and execution was very top of mind for me. But to really emphasize that and the urgency, I've been very fond of an emoji that just says, "Let's go." And so every time I'm in different channels, I'm reacting, "Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go," to the point where our bankers made a T-shirt with my face and a speech bubble that said, "Let's go." So, I think I'm being consistent.
All right, last question. Tell us something you will not forget about Slack.
Oh, man. There are so many things. Obviously, going public is most probably recent, top of mind. We took it down a different process than your traditional IPO process. We went through what is just called a direct listing, and without getting to all the reasons and the technicalities there, I think it was such a proud moment for me because there were so many things that led up to it. Months, quarters of work that the team put in, nights, weekends, and direct listing is one of those things where you don't exactly know what's going to happen. Is unfortunately one of the byproducts of the process. So I'm sitting there on the Morgan Stanley trading floor, and waiting for this thing to open, having just have no idea, no control at that point because it's not a preset allocation. But when it opened and everything went, there were no issues and things seemed to be a success. I was just so proud of the team because we had done something really almost never been done before, and because we all had come together, we're focused and kind of had that shared purpose and alignment, we got it done.
It was an epic moment. Congrats.
Cool. Thank you.
Let's go.
All right. Thank you.